I don't know. This is Maggie is tough to stomach, but this is like a topic where no one knows.
Was that line in your yearbook, Dunn?
No, that is from a stream in regards to the Catelyn chapter in A Song of Ice and Fire, where you abruptly realize, oh, they're having sex. She's been thinking about her brother and a bunch of other random things while she's having sex. What is going on here?
Okay, let's get back
halfway.
Let's get back to Maggie Mae Fish Day. Anyway, good afternoon, folks, or good evening. Welcome to Smudcast number 491, recreating history, all the president's men, and Coup 53. This is Maggie Mae Fish Day. This video came out last year in April, and it's a very unpopular video compared to other ones. This is only 55,000 views, so maybe she's not as crazy in this one. Maybe she's not hitting popular topics. I don't know. It's Maggie Mae. We never know with her. But it's half an hour video. It will take some time. It's about Richard Nixon and all the joys of politics. And these are topics we try to stay away from, but inevitably come up. So in this case, because these are about politics, it's like, fine, we're going to talk about politics and see how crazy she takes it or how biased she is. As always, she always has a biased take, whether it's film or life or white people. It doesn't matter what the topic is. She's just against all these things. So.
She says, "Oh, our president totally wants to plow his own daughter."
Yeah, she mentioned that a few times a few years ago. Yeah.
I believe in the current thing.
Yes, it's called women, but I can't define them, so I don't know what a woman is anymore.
I'm not a biologist, so how should I know?
Yeah.
Have you seen the meme? It's like from the Supreme Court in the US right now, because they are picking like a new person in the rally of evil. So she got asked, like, can you describe what a woman is? And she was like, I'm not a biologist. How should I know? So we are making it into a meme that, like, every time like somebody asks something, I'm not a biologist. How should I know?
Well,
it's amazing.
She could have used She could use a legal term. I'm sure there's a legal definition of man or adult because they have legal jurisdictions for age groups. So it's like, okay, juvenile is not an adult, right? Okay.
Yeah, you would think like someone who works in law
would have a legal answer. Yeah, I know. Something. I'm trying not to be an ice cream guy. I'm gonna answer you in chemistry. It's like, what? You don't need to know all that stuff to make ice cream. It would be nice, but you don't have to. So, I don't know. American politics is funny. I try not to pay attention because, good God, I have to listen to Canadian politics every day.
Well, I have played enough Kojima games to know about American politics.
That's a very good point. Yes. As crazy as Kojima is, he at least makes politics fun.
I had a friend. He went to history classes, and he said like he was so bored, he decided to like pass an exam with just Kojima quotes, and he managed to get like second best grade.
What?
And then like the teacher even congratulated him with that, like, wow, I had never heard something as small as that before.
Wait. What do we? Okay.
Because like the topic was American politics,
right?
And then the guy was talking about the military-industrial complex, and he was using quotes from Metal Gear Solid.
Was he quoting Solid Snake talking about the East and the West and the Cold War? And...
Yes. and like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh my God! What? That's the strangest out of all of them.
It was an oral exam, so. Like,
that's weird. Okay. Holy hell.
That's kind of amazing. That is incredibly impressive.
I said like I chose like a wrong career, man. If it was really this easy, I really should have just stayed home and play video games.
Oh God. Well, you could have turned into like a Ben Shapiro who went his own news route and he became not a blogger, but at the time he was doing his own newspaper in the school, and then he just kept going talking about politics and being a lawyer and more politics. Who knows? Could have worked out. I couldn't tell you. You could always jump into politics. Oh boy, fun. Oh, good lord.
Lots of money there.
I guess for Americans, they love it. So, kind of terrifying. In my case, I'm a little sick and tired of people. Everyone has an opinion about this and that, which is fair, because if you ever voted, I don't know how it works in certain countries, but for me, it was always, I think this is the best guy for the job. Doesn't matter if it's municipal or provincial or federal. I wouldn't care about the party. I care about what they said they were going to do. And then you learn really, really quickly what they say they're going to do almost never happens. So it doesn't really matter who you vote for. Sadly. So the goal is to get the guy who's going to do the least damage. And it's always, I don't mean this in any political right or left leaning. It's always the guy who doesn't want to do much. So he's like, I want to leave everything the way it is. Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
I'm honestly at
the point that like we gotta have elections like next week, but I'm at the point that I just like I don't care about any of those parties. Like they have all failed, and there's only one party that stands by that. Like, oh, we gotta fine everyone of these institutions that have done these restrictions in the past 2 years, and I just don't know if they will gonna like stand by their word. Probably not. So
well, when you have
why even vote then?
We have a government who bought 10 times the amount of the first vaccine when it came out for the number of population of the country. You're like, wait a fuck. What did you do? You spent how much money on a thing that lasts for 1 month? Are you out of your damn mind, sir?
We're building a vaccine factory by the end of the year.
Yeah, we're just handing them out that don't work, that have gone bad. Because the vaccine first came out, it had a shelf life of like, I don't know, 4 months because it's been freezed or frozen. You have to deliver them in a frozen truck and all this bullshit.
What the hell?
So it was like, oh, that's weird.
That's why they have been selling them. Okay.
I can't justify anything my government does anymore. It's too bizarre.
Yeah.
And we're still under lockdown in our own country. If we want to travel, we have to have passes. It's kind of, we're the only country in the world that does this, by the way. So it's weird. The provinces will let you travel, but the federal government won't. It's bizarre. I don't know. Anyway.
You gotta dig a tunnel to U.S.
Yeah, I know. It's just like the tunnel that Mexicans used to do to get across the border.
Yeah, I've seen like enough Looney Tunes cartoons to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
under Lake Superior, just go all the way.
Like, you just tell them that I'm going to Alaska.
Yeah, you go
from the other side.
Opposite direction. I saw a map of Canada 200 years ago, and it's like the Northwest Territories was part of Ontario. So, it's kind of funny how things have changed. Anyway, back to politics with Maggie Mae. 29 minutes. Let's get started.
Oh my goodness. Are we going to survive this?
No.
If you want to support, head over to patreon.com/Maggie Mae Fish and buy CuriosityStream. Recreating Reality, a documentary about a documentary about another documentary, and also about a Hollywood feature. History is a story, one that changes depending on who's telling it. Just look at the differences between the 1619 Project and Trump's 1776 Commission. The first being extensively researched and intended for an audience that's curious about history. The 1776 Commission reads more like a commercial for a product called America that promises to solve all your problems while being suspiciously vague about how it works or what it's made out of. It's a narrative.
Okay, I have no idea what these two things are. I'm the Canadian in the room.
Okay, 1776 Project. I was on my mission through most of Trump's presidency, so I have no idea what most of his policies were because I just didn't care.
Yeah.
What is it? The 1776 Commission. Okay. 1776 Commission. This is Wikipedia. It's just. It's a. Announcing He announced the new commission in a speech, which he contended that a twisted web of lies regarding systemic racism was currently being taught in American schools, calling it a form of child abuse. Before the 2020 elections, established the commission by executive order, and the commission's leaders, in 2020. Okay, contents. It doesn't have any citations or footnotes.
Right.
It doesn't identify its main authors. It identifies progressivism and racism and identity politics as challenges to America's principles. Likens them to communism, slavery, and fascism. It refers to the pro-slavery U.S. politician and former U.S. Vice President John C. Calhoun as the leading forerunner of identity politics, and criticizes some aspects of the civil rights movement. It also describes American universities as a hotbed of anti-Americanism, libel, and censorship, and criticizes feminist movements. It concludes with recommendations to promote positive stories and images of the country's founders at home, schools, and in the arts, among other things. So yeah, we can tell why she hates this.
Yeah. So Trump did it, and then Biden was elected, and within hours of him being elected, apparently he terminated the project. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. They just it's a bunch of things that these people would hate. They're like, we hate this.
Yeah. And it's essentially just saying this is what happened in history. It has some errors. Some historians didn't like it, so they got rid of it.
And also that it also just blasting identity politics and wokeism.
Yeah.
It just no, wokeism sucks.
It's
the government said it. It's hilarious.
It seems like a pet project on not revisionist history, but just America cool. Look at all the cool things. Look at all the bad things. We don't like talking about the bad things or whatever that is current events. So I don't care. Whatever presidents want to do on their way out, good for them. Doesn't bother me.
There's the bird on your way out.
Yeah. Okay.
Designed to appeal to a gullible audience who wants to feel like the heroes in the greater American story themselves. Davy Crockett hats and all that. Today, I'd like to talk about two movies.
That's
Coup 53 is an internationally produced documentary. All the President's Men is a Hollywood feature. Both involve retelling and recreating history. Both narratives involve Western governments covering up the truth to serve the interest of a few rich white dudes at the expense of democracy and transparency. And despite the fact that these films cover events from the 1950s through the 1970s, both are painfully relevant to current politics, both in the U.S. and the broader world. All the President's Men is a 1976 political drama directed by the master of the 1970s paranoid thrillers, Alan J. Pakula, and written by William Goldman, who also happened to have written the novel and screenplay of The Princess Bride.
Inconceivable!
And
Really
the
now?
screenplay for The Stepford Wives.
I thought we were friends. I was just going to give you coffee.
All the President's Men recounts journalists uncovering the Watergate scandal, when President Nixon broke the law by using paid goons, the FBI, and the CIA to cheat during his re-election campaign in 1972.
It involves the entire U.S. intelligence community. Get out your notebook. There's more. Your lives are in danger.
Breaking the news resulted in Nixon's resignation, as well as the prosecution and conviction of 48 of Nixon's aides, including high-level officials like his chief of staff and attorney general. The other film I want to talk about is Coup 53, a documentary written and directed by Iranian-born Taghi Armarani. It is co-written and edited by Walter Murch, who had a hand in some of the most groundbreaking films of the 70s. But not least importantly, he wrote and directed Return to Oz. Coup 53 recounts U.S. and British involvement in the 1953 coup, which ousted the democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Britain's main gripe with Mossadegh was that he had nationalized the Iranian oil industry, ending the ridiculously unfair terms that the British had dictated decades earlier.
Don't forget that he opposed the British Empire before any other country in the Middle East had risen against the British Empire, and he was called the man who broke the back of the British Empire and threw the British out of the country.
But what makes Coup 53 really compelling, unforgettable, and infuriating is that it is a story about how history is written and the lengths to which supposedly representative governments will go to suppress the truth from their citizens. The documentary's centerpiece is an interview with Norman Derbyshire, a British spy who was involved in the coup on the ground in Iran. That interview was recorded in the mid-1980s for another documentary called End of Empire, a multi-part series originally produced for British television about various former British colonies which had gained independence. What makes Derbyshire's interview so important is that, one, Derbyshire basically lays out British involvement in the coup in great detail, despite the fact that even today in 2021, the British government still refuses to acknowledge that they were behind it. Derbyshire was
All right, let's just slow down here. We're talking about 3-4 films, stories going on about...
Yes. Why not make like a
Yes.
single video about
Each of them.
I'm a
Doesn't
little...
seem like there's any unifying theme
Yeah.
other than governments did bad things.
Yeah, governments do
yeah,
bad things.
fair enough, but like it's really difficult to follow this.
Okay, so we have All the President's Men, Coup 53. We had...
Rich white man.
Okay. Right? We had this Empire or whatever thing that was broadcast in Great Britain,
UK.
the UK at the time. And then we had the 1776 Project, or whatever that was about, which was a thing. Okay. All right. I think we're okay. I think we're... I'm just wondering what she's doing and talking about all these things.
The one who co-authored the whole plan for the coup. He ran the coup for the British, calling the shots from the ground. And two, the interview was curiously removed from the End of Empire before it was broadcast, suggesting that the British government demanded its removal, which lines up with their history of censoring politically controversial programs, like they did with Peter Watkins' film The War Game back in 1965. In fact, Taghi only learns about the Derbyshire interview in the first place because he finds a cut-up, typed transcript in a stack of old documents that were in a French basement.
Your British counterpart was in fact blank. Could you tell me something about the man blank?
Your British counterpart was in fact Norman Derbyshire. Could you tell us something about the man, Norman Derbyshire?
Oh, I didn't know him at all before I met him.
During their quest to find a recording of the interview, Taghi and Walter bring in actor Ralph Fiennes to stage a reenactment. Coup 53 has so many layers, so many timelines. It deals with so many facts and figureheads. It covers decades of history while highlighting the voices of historians and first-hand accounts. But rather than feeling like a dry history class, the narrative is laid out in a way that invites you to experience its unfolding along with Taghi. The film turns into one of the most genuinely exciting and moving thrillers I'd ever seen. Sorry, Alan.
Really, a documentary is a moving thriller. Okay, I guess. I mean, if you like watching documentaries, I don't know. Political documentaries aren't exactly my list of thrillers. So, who knows? Maybe she does this for her pastime.
Like if it's like dramatized, like what is it? Like Narcos, for example.
Okay.
It's like okay, that's cool. But if it's just a documentary, it's automatically who you're talking to.
Well, yeah.
The person you're talking to is not going to die, or that like eventually like it's going to be solved.
Right.
J. Pakula, former master of the paranoid thriller. And who better to tell us about the movie than Taghi and Walter themselves? I had the immense privilege of interviewing them over Zoom recently, and I'm including just a small portion of that interview here. Below you'll find a link to the full interview, available on YouTube 1 week from today. We cover a bunch of topics like Return to Oz, politics in 1970s film, and depictions of the Middle East.
Wow.
I want to know more about...
I kind of want to watch this now.
Oh my god. That'll be a ride. Can't wait to sit down for hours listening to Maggie Mae Fish giggle about American politics. That'd be great.
Hey, politics of like the 70s, like that. And I have Godfather footage. Come on, that's like the least interesting bit about it.
All right, here's Great Scots. Thank you, sir. Off topic, but I love how she's getting on the British for being secretly involved in a coup and toppling a government when Turkey still refuses to acknowledge a whole genocide happened. This is a small fry comparatively speaking. You know, I am not akin to understanding the ways of past organizations and how they wanted power in other parts of the world. I don't understand it. It's one of those things that our generation just does not care about. We're busy with our own problems and dealing with our own, listening to our own current events, which is painful enough for us.
But they don't care about it until someone tells them that they have to care.
Yeah, like 60, 70 years ago, something bad happened to another part of the world, and it's our country's fault or something. You're like, okay, sorry. I mean, wasn't the not the Prince and Princess? I don't know if he's still a Prince and Princess Catherine and what's his face. Went down to Jamaica, I think, or was it Barbados, and they did not apologize on behalf of the British government for slavery that happened hundreds of years ago. And why should they? I mean, it's not. They are not the representative of the government. They are the monarch. They are something else. So that was a big deal this past week, which makes some sense. But at the same time, it's like, well, what are we going to do? You know, what will an apology do? They want reparations or all kinds of finances. I don't know. It's just a strange thing.
None of those people are alive anymore.
No, everyone's gone. They don't have slavery anymore. It's fine. It was a bad thing. We get it. Just apologize and move on with your life. And they want to break away from the crown as well. But that's totally cool.
They want their victim card.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't really pay attention to these things. I just notice them and go, that's silly.
But Jamaica is still part of the UK?
I think so. I'd have to ask Hawk about that one to make sure.
Yeah. You gotta ask him if he still owns slaves there. Because I know that, like, Jeremy Corbyn might have some.
Possibly. At least workers. I don't know about slaves. Man.
At least his wife, yeah.
Okay, here's one more from JS. In her defense, documentaries can be quite thrilling at times. I recommend Loose Change as a good example. Loose Change. Okay. That's a more common one. Or past 10 years, I believe. Been a while. All right. Last donation, then we'll get on with the video. The Giga Chad. Hey, how's it going? The British took part in a coup. Maggie cites as she remains ignorant to the KGB's part in the Iranian Revolution. Yes, world powers take part in coups. It's not just a Western thing. Yeah, this is part of the whole... when you get to the end of your rope or when democracy fails, you start doing espionage. And
yeah, never talk about like what communism has done. Like that's why I hate about it, because I do acknowledge if this is like backed up with facts that happened in history, that like the British Empire has done this, but it's never about that certain other side of the world. This is like what pisses me off about Maggie.
There are things...
Such an obvious bias here.
Yeah, there are things about politics, let alone specific countries, but the whole world. We are just not the experts, and I don't think there are very many experts that can talk about this topic in detail to understand what's going on. The same way I have no clue what's going on in Ukraine right now, aside from watching bombs hit things. That's it. And people are all against war, and it's pretty common, but we don't know exactly why. We don't understand the relationship between Ukraine and Russia and the NATO powers that be and all this other stuff. We just don't have the knowledge or the history.
Yeah, it's all black and white on the television.
Right, and I'm sure there's all kinds of nuance to it, and I've had friends from Russia that came to Canada, and they tell me all the stories of the horrors of the 90s of Russia that occurred and all the crazy corruption that went everywhere, and it's still sort of there. And
it is there still.
Yeah, so it's like there's bad actors on every part, and they're trying to make, again, the best situation out of whatever they've got. I don't know. It's a tough topic, and I don't expect to be knowledgeable on these things. But Maggie hopefully will connect the dots for something to do with Nixon, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, one more, then we'll get on with the video. Great, Scott. Thank you again. It's not so much to guilt trip a whole country or ethnicity for something that happened 100 or so years ago, like SJWs do, just to acknowledge that it factually happened and to shed light on parts of history that shouldn't be forgotten moving forward to me. The whole thing with slavery is, it's such a silly thing when you look at the numbers of what happened in Africa, that there were more white people enslaved to North Africa than there were black people enslaved to America. It's these crazy numbers of people, let alone black people being enslaved in Africa. These crazy numbers that don't make any sense, that you never hear about because of the oppression Olympics that's been happening in the past 20, 30 years. So it's all in the past. It's all water on the bridge, or it should be. And we have these crazy narratives of nowadays defining what it means to be American or Canadian or white or woman or whatever. It's ridiculous. People do not understand language, and they blame it on historical examples which they were not even alive for.
Perspective, both in this Ralph Fiennes reenactment and in the animated sequences which show us the coup itself. As a documentary, Coup 53 is dealing with the truth, but it also includes these recreations of the truth. There are so many layers, including many scenes that give us a behind-the-scenes look into the actual production of the film. And yet, when you walk away, it feels so heartfelt, and the mechanics of filmmaking never distract you. So I asked how they navigated those layers of reality.
One of the things that unites both the animation and Ralph Fiennes' performance is that we stay way clear of what's called the Uncanny Valley, which is something that is so close to being real, but it's not real yet. And as a result, it sounds cinematically, it's like musical dissonance.
That's not on the Uncanny Valley. What are you talking about?
Uncanny Valley.
What animation is he talking about?
Uncanny Valley is a sight thing.
Yeah, you get close as possible to reality, and once you get to a certain point, it looks so far off that it looks unreal.
Talking from what was that movie called? Rogue One. Like the CGI on him was horrendous. I would say that's like one of the best like Uncanny Valley. Next to Princess Leia, those two were like, ugh. If I see that, like, it's so obviously CG, but it's trying like so hard to be human.
I'm trying to remember that Tom Hanks film where he's on a train up north, and the whole thing is 3D. And
Polar Express.
Polar Express. There he goes, like 20 years ago or whatever. That was like almost pure Uncanny Valley. The whole thing.
Yes.
Was just, whoa, like you look at that, you're like, it looks okay, and then they start animating, you're like, ooh, that does not look good. Something was almost alien to me watching that. So, yeah, no, I heard the term in animation, I've heard the term in 3D stuff, but not in the film sense. Is there a definition of the film or Uncanny Valley outside of like special effects?
Never heard about it in like documentary.
Makeup?
I've seen it with like when we're making androids or female androids or whatever, they're trying to get attractive looking prosthetics. This was like 10 years ago. And there's a certain Uncanny Valley-esque vibe where it's like, okay, it's a mannequin, but there's some human features that don't mesh well with the human face. Nowadays, I've seen, what was that robotics company, that Boston Robotics or whatever?
Yes.
They recently had a human face that was made of plastic or whatever, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So we've obviously gotten better technology to do realistic mannequins. In the context of a film, though, I've never heard the truth represent as something ugly because it's too close to the truth or something like that. It's a weird term to have. Anyway.
Notes are almost there, but not quite, and that's where it drives you crazy. So we never pretend that Ralph Fiennes is Norman Derbyshire. In fact, we show the preparations for him sitting down to read basically the transcript of this explosive interview that the real Norman Derbyshire gave, which the tapes of which, and perhaps the film of which, has all mysteriously disappeared into some black hole. And so we went to this sort of secondary stage where we asked a great actor to simply be the channel to get these words
Okay.
from the printed page, the typewritten page of the original transcript, into a film.
There was a shot that you kept in right before the Ray Fiennes interview where he looks directly into camera, breaking the fourth wall. And I watched Coup 53.
Directly into camera does not break the fourth wall, Maggie.
Exactly, you talk.
There are times when you Trading Spaces, I believe. Eddie Murphy is smiling and laughing. The guy's explaining like gold bullion and orange juice and what resources are. And he's smiling and laughing. And then he just has this deadpan stare right at the camera for like a second while he's talking. Like that's a fourth wall staring at the camera because he's doing a thing, talking to someone, and the camera's facing his profile, and all of a sudden he turns and looks directly at the camera and has a deadpan. That's a fourth wall break. It's a very, very small one, but that would do it.
There's no such thing as a fourth wall break in a documentary. It's all a fourth wall break.
It's a documentary, or it's supposed to be a documentary in the style of interviewing someone who's real, which is fair. This is within a film where the willing suspension of disbelief, you just take a step outside of that. You're like, boop. Okay, I'm going to jump into the crowd now. It's like, whoa. Stage production. Okay. So, that gets where the people get splashed on by fake blood in the Rocky Horror Picture Show productions. That's, you could argue, is a fourth wall break. But in a documentary, I've never heard it that way before because it's a documentary. It's a bunch of people interviewing people. So, I don't know.
About 3 times. And it was the third time I caught that I was like keeping that in. Did all the things exactly that you said, but I had only noticed it the third time. I was like, whoa, he looks directly into the camera.
I like that look. All the elaborate setup, Rafe, actor, Mark Antony, Shakespeare, Savoy Hotel, the fourth wall being broken and everything. The point is, what he says, that transcript, those are the words. There's no doubt about the fact that Derbyshire said those things. So the foundation of this entire scene, this entire recreation, reenactment, is the truth of what he said. Now we can disagree about why he said what he said. Did he do those things? Is he self-aggrandizing? But that's an authentic record of what he said. So we are just finding a cinematic and a compelling and attractive way of bringing the truth of those words to the audience.
In addition to avoiding the uncanny valley during the Ray Fiennes segments, that philosophy also applies to the various stages of the coup itself, represented through an impressionistic animation style. This sequence is reconstructed based on eyewitness accounts from people who were there during the fighting. When you watch Coup 53, you can't help but notice the style choice. And I asked Walter and Toggy to elaborate on why they used that specific look.
We went...
Okay, so that's basically just a filter. Nowadays, you could put on...
It does look like a filter.
Nowadays, yeah. It's easy for me to put that on and alter the settings per frame on balance and granularity or granularity. I can't remember exact phrases, but yeah, you could do all this crazy crap with video nowadays. So back then, probably it was different, for sure. So they would have to take every frame and animate it or rotoscope it and do their own thing. So, cool. Anyway, great, Scott. Thanks for the one. Gee, Maggie, you sure are pulling a whole lot of fourth wall breaks for this interview. Oh. And uncanny valleys, apparently.
Yeah, and I saw like Starship Trooper and chat. Doesn't that have like the commercial segments where they always look in the camera? Does that break the fourth wall?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. Fourth wall is very specific. It's very noticeable. And I'm trying to remember, like the Naked Gun series, if they do that, they might. I definitely know that even Spaceballs sort of does that. But because it's a comedy or it's a farce anyway, I wouldn't even call it a fourth wall break. So whenever that guy gets killed off camera, and the camera pans as a stagehand, or it's just the short, he did it, he killed him with the shorts. You know, I would call it a fourth wall break because obviously it's away from the stage, but it's all a joke anyway. It's all a big giant farce.
Yeah, and like comedies can like have that kind of liberty.
Yes, exactly. That's why we accept it within the world of Deadpool, because
now I remember the Spaceball scene, like when they fight, and he actually hits one of the cameramen.
Yeah, exactly.
Good news. We're like a third of the way through, and we're only 30 minutes into the stream.
Yeah, I know. It's just going by very quickly because we're just sitting there going, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, JS. Not sure if it's Maggie's fault or not, but the documentary seems hyper pretentious. Reminds me of Seaspiracy. What's Seaspiracy?
Conspiracy.
Sounds like
probably some documentary
about the water.
Sounds
Seasteading?
Yes.
A bunch of libertarians wanting to build their own country or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the sea that has moose eating
orcas.
Fish. Orcas, yes.
All you need to do to get some good venison is come to Utah. We have deer running all over the place.
Oh yeah, do they have a population problem of deer?
Yeah.
Because we had a boar problem, I think, up north a few months back, and I was like, wild boar. It's like, oh my god, all my hunter family would be like, well, time to get out the crossbow. It's like, okay.
I'll just kind of be driving, or just be walking outside, and I'll just see a deer, like 3 or 4 deer, including like maybe like a 6-point buck.
Wow.
Just running around.
Yeah, we have deer in Canada, like in my backyard. I see deer at least once every week or so, and especially when it was wintry, they'll walk around. You see their hoof prints everywhere. Lots of rabbits and deers, and sometimes we see some pheasants. It's been a while though, but deers have been the most prolific, I would say. There's coyotes, you hear them, but you don't actually see them. Yeah, the wilderness is fun.
The occasional moose down here as well.
I haven't seen moose. They're a bit bigger, a bit wilder. For at least in my ravine, it's not wide enough to constitute moose. But
I haven't seen them, but my dad got chased in a golf course.
Okay. Oh boy, I haven't had moose in a while. I really want to go downtown to. I don't know if you saw that Joe Rogan Experience guy years ago. He was the guy who got a bunch of vegetarians or vegans or whatever were protesting outside of his store. And he went on Joe Rogan saying what the hell happened, because he started slicing up a leg of venison in front of the window, because he was so like, I don't know what to do with these guys. I just like have fun with them. I missed that place. So good hamburgers, really good cocktail bar, and just fantastic charcuterie. So yeah, I want to go back. Anyway.
Specifically for a kind of finger painting impressionistic look in the animation, so that you never think as an audience, is this really what it actually looked like?
Right,
what we were trying to get as what sort of would invoke the swirl of memories of the person who is telling this story as you watch these images.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were very careful to keep a distance between the truth of the matter and how we presented it, either by inviting you backstage to see the preparations for this.
See, that's interesting, because you can go ahead and take actual footage and then make your own, and just put this giant filter on top of both of them, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, well, like, why are they even talking about Uncanny Valley? Like, it's not trying to be like realistic. It's an extremely stylized animation from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. It's an odd take on the word. I just never used it or heard it used that way before. It's always been visual. Yeah.
Like a CGI of the recent years.
Yeah.
Ray finds being made up and ordinary chit chat before the filming, and the same thing applies to the animation.
We're just trying to use that animation to kind of bring the truth of his emotional memory. That's kind of an impressionistic emotional memory of it. These are like little flashbacks, but that's how we remember things. We remember little bits. We remember little flashes. We never remember an entire day of our lives. We just remember certain moments. We're not saying that exactly happened that way. We have 3 soldiers. There might have been 10 soldiers. Does it matter? The
Well,
event
yeah.
happened, and that's how he remembers it.
One of the major themes of Coup
Yeah, if you want to
is
make a
the construction
documentary,
of
it
narrative,
matters to
especially
represent the
the
details
official
as they
narratives
used
put
to be.
forth by
Yeah.
the British and U.S. intelligence agencies. By using these distancing techniques, taking us behind the scenes.
What the? What is?
She just show up the editing stuff that's weird.
Is she getting bored?
Hey, look, I'm special now.
I have a camera. I can record 2 seconds of me saying something.
Look at me, plebs. I can do this.
I am so good at the cameraing. I can do it.
Because of my patrons.
You know, the animation style reminded me of a more brushed version of the Take On Me video.
Yeah. With colors inking, yeah.
Yeah. More rotoscoping, of course, but still the same idea.
The other Ray Fiennes reenactment and using impressionistic animation in the battle scenes, the filmmakers are also training us, the audience, to be more aware of the artificiality of the medium.
What?
In one sequence in Coup 53, we see a British petroleum
'cause it-
promotional film from 1951 called A Persian Story, showcasing the manicured gardens and swimming pools of Abadan.
And side by side with the giant refinery, schools and colleges, hospitals and clubs, all the amenities of a city of today for work and living and leisure.
Then, following that archival footage, which feels like a British adaptation of the Stepford Wives,
When I was just going to give you coffee. When I was just going to give you coffee.
they immediately cut to an interview with an Iranian gardener
very
who
funny.
worked there.
باغها بهترین گل بهترین منازل بهترین اسفالت بهتر همه تو این برای من انگلیسا و اینجا تو خونه گیلی بودیم زمان انگلیسا.
By juxtaposing these drastically different tones, Coup 53 fractures the official narrative and encourages us to look for more of those narrative fractures ourselves. This is also why Taghi was the perfect candidate to make this film. The depth of knowledge and research throughout the film is stunning.
There are many different vested interests who have very different stories about what happened in 1953. And if we had attempted to make let's say a kind of a God's eye view, this happened, this happened, this happened, the immediate question would be, who are you and why are you telling us these things? You know, where are you coming from? And so
Is that really a concern for a documentarian who just wants to report the facts? No. We have to do a dreamscape technique with animation to make it look like it really didn't happen. I don't know. Why don't you just lay out the facts in an entertaining way? Why do you have to make all this crazy stuff happen? Hire an actor. Can't you just get a good voice actor and have it recite the lines? There's lots of things they could have done. This is bored. I don't know what makes a successful documentary, but he's just arguing, well, I don't want to seem pretentious. It's like, why did you do a whole animation thing? Why did you hire an actor?
It really depends. Like, documentaries are usually done about like specific important events with the intention of proving some kind of point. Like recently I watched a Murder Among the Mormons documentary where it's about a world-class forger who forged a lot of weird documents that were like historical documents about the supposedly historical Mormon documents. Not to be all fake, but it kind of the thing that sells is if it's cool, if it bleeds, it leads kind of thing.
Right. And the topic of like true crime documentaries the topics are already exciting. You don't need to embellish it. You don't need special effects. You don't need sound effects of people getting hacked and screaming and reenactments. You don't need to go that far. You could have some, like here's the house, and then you could imagine someone walking into it and you have this faded effect. But you don't have to go through an entire frame of animation or a series of sections with actors. It's like, okay, obviously you're doing something creative. This is why when I tend to think of documentaries, the director's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it this way. It's like, why? Why are you doing that? Just show me the data in an interesting, quick way so I get your point. And the data there is so shocking. It's like, oh my God, it's a big deal. That's why you made a documentary. Okay.
push from behind the camera into the front of the camera. That's who's doing it. And Taghi has his own particular personal history, which is that he is a dual British-Iranian citizen. He was born in Iran, spent up to his teenage years in Iran under the Shah, and then came to Britain to study, go to university. And so he knows both cultures. And this film would not have been possible if that hadn't have happened. If he was a British filmmaker, he couldn't have done certain things that only an Iranian can do. And by the same token, if he was only Iranian, he couldn't have gotten certain things that only a British person could get.
But as much as there is for us to learn from Coup 53, the US and UK governments also learned a lot from the coup itself back in the 1950s. Stephen Kinzer, author of All the Shah's Men, describes what the American establishment learned.
I think Eisenhower, in particular, was astonished and deeply impressed. President Eisenhower, as a general, had to send kids off to die by the thousands. Now he sees you can change an entire regime, and only a couple of hundred people die, and none of them are Americans, and it's very cheap.
And David Talbot, author of The Devil's Chessboard, A History of the CIA, adds,
So, of course, they were emboldened to do this yet again just the following year, 1954, in Guatemala, when they overthrew the democratically elected government of Acubo Arbenz.
As Eisenhower's second term was coming to an end, his vice president, Richard Nixon, lost the 1960 presidential election to John F. Kennedy, largely thanks to Nixon's dismal appearance and performance in televised debates. With the failure of his vice president to succeed him, Eisenhower gave one of his most memorable speeches a few days before leaving office in January 1961. In it, he coined the term military-industrial complex.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense.
The speech is often framed as a warning against the influence of an immense military and the arms industry as a whole. But Eisenhower never condemns the military-industrial complex itself. He condemns the possibility of unwarranted influence on it. Like, say, the unwarranted influence he inflicted on the citizens of Iran. He even encourages what he calls the proper meshing of American industry and the military. And under Eisenhower, the American nuclear stockpile grew from 1,000 atomic weapons to more than 18,000. So it's not a case of military-industrial complex equals bad. It's more, we don't want it influenced by the wrong people. Of course, the wrong...
What a strange take. The speech was how bad the thing is, and we have to be careful of it, because it's private industry, and the government's buying into that to wage war. I'm getting the feeling because Eisenhower is Republican, therefore bad.
Yes.
And
also because he's a Jew and a rich white man, and other things.
I mean, it doesn't matter which president you're talking about throughout the history, they've all waged war in some capacity. That's what presidents do. That's the point. They are leaders of the military. And America's everywhere. America's everywhere in the world. It's never going to stop unless you get an actual president that says, no, we're pulling out of everywhere. Now that
not a single time in history have I heard of a leader who was looking at the benefits of some other nation first.
Yeah.
No casualties there.
It doesn't matter who you are. I think the whole thing was about JFK. The whole conspiracy was that he wanted to stop wars and here and there, and the military-industrial complex didn't like that, and that's why he was killed. I've heard that rumor.
Oh, so Eisenhower warned against it, and it still happened regardless. Oh, okay.
Right now, America's in so many places in the world. If you were to have a president like a Ron Paul fellow who wanted to just pull out of everything, history would probably repeat itself. He'd get assassinated. A world war would start in some part of the world. Because America's there. If you're talking about world wars, they are NATO. They are the teeth of NATO. If America pulls out of Security Council for whatever reason, what's going to happen? Who's going to be
the same thing that happened with the League of Nations.
Yeah.
That was a really good project as well.
Oh. Yeah, it's very basic stuff. Anyway, JS. Thank you. Was this video made before war became fashionable again 3 weeks ago? Came out
Yes,
last year.
it was 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah. During Biden's years, or last year rather. Okay.
Young people would be anyone who isn't very pro-war. The military-industrial complex speech wasn't a warning. It was PR. The events of the 1950s.
Are you retarded? The guy who coined the phrase to be wary of it says it was a PR thing?
Smud, the answer is yes.
That's like saying anthrax is bad, but I want you to take it. No. It's like, what? The war on drugs, guys. Well, first you obviously have to take the drugs. It's like, no. That's not what he was saying at all. Oh my God, I could bring up this speech and read it. He's warning people. Like, this is a bad thing. It's going to happen.
Like, it's only like a few minutes as well, that speech.
Yeah, obviously, go to YouTube, do Eisenhower's speech, and watch it. Tell me if he's promoting war. Holy hell.
These didn't teach those in power to be better people or do a better job defending freedom and democracy at home and abroad. It taught them how to be better at PR. In 4 arguments for the elimination of television.
So let me get this straight again. Eisenhower warning people about the military-industrial complex was a lesson on war is good, and that was how to make better PR talking about how war is good. Really.
And that control should never be trusted to the wrong people.
I don't know, lady. That is a really bizarre take.
Former advertising executive turned activist Jerry Mander describes how Richard Nixon radically altered his approach to television after Nixon lost to Kennedy in 1960. In other words, how Nixon improved his own PR game.
Nixon understood that TV appearances were more important than personal ones. By the time he ran again in 1968, he had revised his image. He became the new Nixon. Even though many people understood that his change was only cosmetic, he won. Once elected, Nixon made his first appointments, Ziegler and Haldeman, from advertising, the field that pioneered conveying pseudo-content in place of substance. By his 1972 campaign...
Oh, so basically what every president has been doing ever since. Like, if you look at the Obama campaign, that was the craziest marketing stint. I've never seen hoopla that big over a president before.
The 2008 one, yeah.
The original, yeah. Even well, yeah. I'd say even the second one as well. But the first one was just nuts.
Yes.
Online presence, the email campaigns. I think Twitter was just around. Yeah, it was out. Twitter was out then.
It was out by then.
Yeah, it was intense. Like, it was crazy. And every day there was something about Obama. Even after he was elected, every day there was something about Obama. You know, the fact that he even won a Nobel Prize just blew my mind. It made no sense. Like, all these things, I can't believe people are getting suckered into this nonsense over a president who goes around bombing people. That's what American presidents do. Okay, some of them use planes or A-10s, and some of them use drones. The same thing. They're bombs. They kill people.
Nixon appeared only on television, never in public.
All the President's Men is a film that draws you in.
He appeared in public. What are you talking about? He took all kinds of speeches, but they were televised.
We're not talking about Biden, Maggie, okay?
I wish Biden was only televised so they had more time to prepare.
Yeah.
He made no public appearances. That, like, seen but not heard, I guess. What's the phrase? That guy, like, all the puppet masters, I don't know who's in charge of, like, Trudeau and Biden, but holy hell, they got to rein those guys in. They have their own problems. But
whatever healthcare they are providing, I think that should be like the premium package.
Yeah, whatever's keeping Biden alive and walking across the green, not upstairs, but on 180-degree planes. Keep that going.
Walk walking corpse with probably very severe Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I think our leader just has really fancy socks, so he has all that friction between him and the shoe. He doesn't fall over as much. At least when he talks. Not when he doesn't talk. Porcelain is the fourth. Thank you. How does anybody in Maggie's personal life never say, Maggie, you're my friend, but the things you say on these videos make you sound like an insufferable effing retard? Remember, fellas, war is peace, freedom is slavery, and biological men are women. If you go to this video, and again, it's not a very popular video, almost all of the comments she has hearted. It's bizarre. So whenever I left a comment on her videos years and years ago, I think this is like the third time we covered one of her videos, that's when I was blocked on YouTube and Twitter. And Mark actually that was funny because Mark was observing the title of Maggie's one of her videos we just covered. And
yeah, and she changed the title.
And I don't know, you refreshed your screen or something, and the title was different. I was like,
Discord basically caches in the meta information that you get, so you can just look back the URL, and it's gonna have like a different title to it because it's like caches those things in.
Yeah,
it does that frequently. Honestly,
yes,
it's free. It's almost like on the regular, like it. Used to be like her RoboCop video used to be like RoboCop and trans allegory or some nonsense like that.
Yes.
And then it got to RoboCop, revenge and analysis.
She
changes it all the time.
She must have a SEO company or service that recommends this to her, or else she wouldn't have any idea why she'd do that. To change, because I've heard, I research SEO and I talk to people. And they recommend if you have a popular video, look at the algorithm, what's popular, and it compares it to other videos of the same type. It says, oh, you should put these keywords into your description and your title. And it's not as important as in the tags, but they used to be big before. Now tags aren't as important. So it's strange. It's kind of weird that this is her thing, that you're constantly changing and updating just for it's like, say what you want, put it down on paper, put it down on video, and let it go. Stop trying to game the system. Your ideas are insane half the time. I don't know why. And I don't know why you can't take criticism. I don't know why you block people for pointing at all your crazy ideas. So, anyway.
Slow camera movements, long, patient shots, that naturalistic acting of the late 70s that is a personal favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah, like the 70s porn you're very famous for enjoying. Thanks, Maggie. That's great.
Yeah, the green door.
Oh, green room.
The green door.
The green door now.
Oh.
There's a constant tension in All the President's Men between the fact-based narrative that journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein are trying to piece together and the PR narrative pushed by the Nixon administration. The film feels like a showdown between these two stories, one meticulously researched and the other a walking, breathing revisionist history as carefully crafted as the 1776 report. Woodward and Bernstein's jobs was essentially to look for the narrative fractures within the Nixon administration's story and pry it open from there to get the truth. The events of All the President's Men take place during that 1972 campaign, when Nixon's PR machine was in full swing. So it's no surprise.
Yeah, I think not every president, but definitely Obama had a jingle. He had a youth corps, whatever you want to call it, corps. He had a few dances. He was on all kinds of shows. It was just, you hit the PR circuits.
Trump had YMCA.
He did?
Yes.
He licensed a few musics, and I think the owners of said musics didn't like it sometimes because they didn't agree with him. But they didn't own the music. It was from Sony Pictures or whatever. So they couldn't do it. Oh, God. It's all populism. Oh, no shit. It's politics. Okay.
that those former ad executives, Ziegler and Haldeman, play crucial roles in the plot of All the President's Men. Haldeman was Nixon's chief of staff and the man behind the whole operation. He was eventually convicted and sentenced for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Ziegler was Nixon's press secretary, and the real-life Ziegler even appears on TV within the film. Televisions themselves are an important visual motif in All the President's Men. We see quite a few high-ranking, real-life Nixon administration officials throughout the film, but only on TV. TVs are conspicuously placed throughout as if they're omnipresent. It feels like a reverse surveillance state where you're constantly bombarded by the Nixon administration's message.
Okay, a reverse... Is that a 1984 reference?
I guess.
I doubt that she can comprehend 1984.
That, or she thinks that 1984 is one of those books that's been quote-unquote misinterpreted by the red-pilled incel losers who she hates.
Bread-pilled?
She's certainly bread-pilled.
She is, yes.
Oh, boy. I'm trying to remember when the book actually came out. I'll figure out later. Anyway, in 1984, the broadcasting machines have cameras on them, so.
Messaging while you're unable to respond. Whoever's on TV has the upper hand.
Yes, Maggie, you don't talk back to your TVs; they don't respond to you. What the fuck?
You have no control over your fate.
What the hell?
The causality of politics.
Who talks to their TV and expects a response? I don't know. I guess Maggie does.
Maggie Mae Fish.
6-year-olds.
Oh, Maggie Mae Fish.
They're stupid. 6-year-olds do all the time because they're stupid.
Oh, so the book came out in 1949. Okay, thank you. All right, good stuff.
Woodward and Bernstein's job is to literally ask questions, the one thing that you can't do to someone on TV. The television screen.
Oh, wow.
I also can't ask questions to a wall unless I want silence, but you know. I would be caught asking or saying a line in one of my videos like that. That'd be kind of stupid. Unless it's facetiously or something. Like, this is so silly. Come on, Maggie. Does the TV speak back? No. Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks, Maggie.
Is like an impenetrable glass barrier, shielding the Nixon officials from any questions that they don't want to answer and giving them an unfair advantage in controlling the narrative in the public space. At the time, Woodward and Bernstein were nobodies.
They were unknown. They were real outsiders and at the bottom of the rung, so to speak.
So we're watching these two unknown reporters oppose literally the most powerful man on earth, who had control over the American military and the intelligence services at his disposal, while the only weapon in these reporters' arsenals were their words. The visuals within the film emphasize that power imbalance as well. Director Alan J. Pakula elaborated in a behind-the-scenes featurette at the time.
There are shots of great stone buildings that are enormous and that dwarf the characters in the film. And you just feel the enormity of the power they're up against, the enormity of impersonal government. And against that, there are these little cards, these little scribbles that pieced together will cut right through those walls and force certain areas of our power to crumble. I said to Gordon Willis, the cameraman, what would be wonderful would be if we could start on the cards and just see going after card after card after card, name after name, filling the screen as they look for the right one. And then have the camera slowly pull all the way up to the top of the dome of the Library of Congress. One gets a sense of the hopelessness, the sense of smallness.
I'm kind of curious what those cards are. Are those old form of indexing that they would have these alphabetical periodicals and they would have just these lines of cards and you would pull the whole stack out and then go through them? And then, unless you were a good person, the librarian would then have to go, oh my God, I have to reorganize all these cards. Are these books or are these names? Like, what is this? I'm kind of curious. Anyway, I have to ask my dad about that. Maybe he's around the libraries at the time.
This smallness, scrappy detectives up against a huge
They're not detectives.
power, is reflected back in Taghi's work in Coup 53.
My homage to All the President's Men, I didn't have the same budget as Gordon Willis when they go to the Library of Congress. I stuck my iPhone on a stick and put it on the top of my office as I was going through those boxes, and that's my version of Gordon Willis' frame shot.
Towards the end of the documentary, once we've seen the scope of the coup in Iran, we're shown box after box of documents detailing American-supported coups in other countries, implicating our government's actions destabilizing democracies across the world. That shot makes us, the audience, feel small when compared to the power and scope of what governments have done supposedly on behalf of our freedom. Davy Crockett hats and all that. When powerful Western governments write their own version of events and formulate their PR strategy, they make sure to cast themselves as the put-upon party, even noble, while doing everything to hide their own agency and power. Before staging the coup in 1953, the British first tried other nefarious means of getting Mossadegh to bend the knee, including an oil embargo.
And we put advertisements in most of the newspapers of the world saying that who bought Persian oil bought a lawsuit.
Not a very democratic thing to do.
I think when you're attacked, you defend yourself. You don't think of democracy in those terms.
Wait a second. You're buying time on private stations for advertising. How's that democratic? It's just that's business. Like you're a station. I have time. Do you want time? Well, give me money, and here's your time. There you go. That's totally. How is that illegal or bad? I don't get. Maybe the message could be bad, but anyone can do it if they have the money.
British were the ones who exploited the country's resources for decades, refusing to let any Iranian even see the accounting. But these British officials immediately throw the idea of representative government out the window. And this guy is claiming the British were attacked when he's literally being interviewed about the fact that the British funded and supported a violent coup. Also known...
No, he's talking about broadcasting on stations. Maybe he was involved in that, but that's not what he said.
As an attack. In All the President's Men, Nixon's press secretary, Ron Ziegler, writes a similar narrative. He casts Nixon as innocent by default and casts the Washington Post's editor Ben Bradlee as a shallow, politically motivated villain, rather than the editor of a publication working on one of the biggest political cover-ups in U.S. history.
I think anyone who would want to honestly assess what his political persuasions are would, I think, come to the conclusion quite quickly that he is not a supporter of President Nixon.
Gee, why does that sound so familiar? Ask a Republican today if they're ashamed of Nixon, and you'll get a denial, followed by...
Are you joking?
Really? No. It's overwhelmingly people are gonna agree that he did a lot of shady things.
Watergate was a political scandal. Everyone dislikes it.
Yeah. Why would even most based hardcore conspiracy theorist ridden Republican and ever consider Watergate anything other than a major disaster?
Oh my God.
Well, Nixon opened trade to China, so ... This film came out just 2 years after Nixon resigned, and it is still one of the best pieces of American cinema to this day. Even if you weren't...
This? Okay. Did it win any awards? I have no idea. I don't really care, but this is American cinema?
This is America.
I think The Godfather is a little more memorable, more famous.
A lot more memorable.
Goodfellas.
Lord of the Rings.
American
Star Wars, for God's sake.
Yeah. Maybe for a docu. What are they called? Docutainments, or what are they called? They're based off true life, but they're in the style of a movie. So, what's the other one with Julia Roberts, where she's a lawyer? That's based off, I think, the poisoning of water or something like that. In some town. It was a huge scandal. Can't remember the name of that. Anyway, Porcelinus IV, thank you again. Maggie's being a tad disingenuous. You kidding? Most of the democracies the CIA destabilized were democracies in name only. Most of them were socialist and communist dictatorships. Unfortunately, many of their replacements were also dictatorships. Yeah, and they're referring to the Shah, at least within the Iranian time period, which America did help establish. So, yeah, it's a common pattern in all of these supposed free world endeavors. You end up creating a brand new host of problems. Not to say they're worse or better, you're just installing one problem with another. And this is the whole argument against world building or being the policeman of the world. It just keeps coming back. Like you cannot solve that country's problems. And whether America is going to learn that or they're going to pull out and say, yes, we're stopping NATO, we're stopping to get involved in all the other world's problems, I doubt I'll see that in my lifetime. So it seems more days that America is going to get involved in non-NATO problems, but none of my concern. Nothing to do with me, thankfully. I'm the stupid younger brother with no bite, so I like that position.
Around for when the events happened, this film stands as a testament to the journalist's work. And, most importantly, it makes complicated politics that have real-life consequences to this day accessible to everyone. As for Nixon himself, Jerry Manders summed up the president's fate in a passage that feels like it could be straight out of Videodrome.
Having used the media so well, Nixon developed a fatal arrogance about it. He and Agnew may have been right in claiming that their various transgressions were nothing special in American political history, but they forgot that they themselves were media illusions. The gravest mistake that can be made by a media creature is to assault the machine. The machine doesn't care about its fantasies. A new one will do. Bringing Nixon down was just as good for ratings as supporting him. Better, more action. The only goals of the machine are to continue to be the real power behind the throne, no matter who is king, and to remain the primary factor in all public perception. Television has the power to create presidents, and it has the power to destroy them.
Isn't that the same attitude of Vosh the past week, where he doesn't care about the message, he cares about the optics?
Yes, that is exactly his words.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what I'm saying, doesn't matter who I'm attacking or how I'm attacking them. In this case, it was J.K. Rowling or whatever. He only cares about...
J.K. Rowling is firmly on the left. The only reason why they don't like her is because she made a milquetoast, her quote-unquote turfy comment. It's just like pathetic.
Yeah, TERFs have to be attacked because even perceived TERFs, I don't think she is one, but it's just stupid.
No, she loves trans people. Like she's like saying that like a trans person, a trans woman, not fully appreciate the effects of being a woman. That's just how she puts it.
Yes, optics, the wonderful joys of marketing. It's fantastic.
As young Americans, especially if you were born after the coup, after the Iranian Revolution, and came of age during the War on Terror, we were bombarded with messaging that the Iranian Revolution was just this thing that happened out of the blue with no rhyme or reason. In Coup 53, Taghi highlights Iranians telling their own story. Instead of just seeing America's PR version of what happened, Coup 53 contextualizes Iranian history through a non-Western lens. The Iranian Revolution is not a fluke, but part of a larger story. Part of a chain of cause and effect. Stephen Kinzer sums up the message that the West sent to the Middle East by supporting the coup.
Here was the message we sent to the rising generation of leaders throughout the Middle East. The United States does not want democracy. What we want is a dictatorial leader who can repress his people as much as he wants, and we will help him do that as long as he gives us free access to oil.
In understanding the cause and effects, we can better understand the world that we live in and how we can move forward without forgetting the past. But that's easier said than done. since the powers that be are always trying to rewrite or even erase history completely. Despite the fact that we like to think of Nixon's crimes as a thing of the past, creeps like Roger Stone and Pat Buchanan, both of whom got their political careers off the ground in
Pat Buchanan. Is he still?
Who is that?
I guess he's still alive. He's a well-known paleo conservative from. I think he tried running for office with Barry Goldwater. I can't remember, back in the 70s. He's been a political commentator in the 80s and 90s. I think he's still kicking. But yeah, he's a old dude. Got to be in his 80s. I don't know what he's done though. Like, it was so offensive. It's been a while. So.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Since White House are still leaders in conservative circles today. Nixon's legacy of lies and PR is felt in everything from MAGA to Law and Order to Stop the Steal. The making of Coup 53 is a testament to that historical erasure too. Taghi struggled to complete his movie for 10 years as conventional sources of documentary funding, from grants to foundations to festivals, all mysteriously rejected Coup 53. Even after the film premiered to rave reviews at Telluride, with sold-out screenings and a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, no distributor would touch it. Taghi chose to self-distribute, but when he released Coup 53 on a VOD platform, the producers of End of Empire threatened to sue for defamation and got the film temporarily taken down.
This rejection of funding support is actually one of a piece, and is a pattern that's continued to this day. The lack of support for this film at every single stage.
So did you try crowdfunding? I mean, there's lots of options nowadays if you really wanted to market your thing. It's not impossible.
Brandon Sanderson made $30 million in a week. The Kickstarter.
Yes. Now he's at 33 million? Oh, is it even more than that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need some big name behind you to promote yourself, but if you're fighting for freedom or the truth, there's always a big audience to know, especially from the country you're talking about. So, you're going to get an audience of some kind somewhere. So I'm not saying you're going to make $30 million, but you're going to at least fund what you're trying to do.
Is now one uniform piece. It now makes sense.
Taghi and Walter are currently working on a follow-up to Coup 53, called Coup 53.1, documenting all the trials and tribulations of lawsuits, rejection from award ceremonies, and outside interference. But at least, in my opinion, it's not the awards that matter.
So what has been the reception of Coup 53 in Iran?
Young Iranians who were born after the revolution, who most of them don't even know who Mossadegh was, are almost tearful in telling me, thank you for telling us our own history. Now we understand. Now we get it. Now we understand.
So interesting to hear, people say how thank you for telling us our history, but also as like a young American, like, thank you also for telling us our history.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm uploading my full interview with Taghi and Walter here on YouTube a week from now. But if you absolutely can't wait, you can get early access to the full interview right now over at the creator-driven streaming site Nebula. I learned so much about filmmaking from talking to them. It was like a masterclass in film, so I hope you check it out. Plus all of my other...
I don't think Maggie even understands the concept of Uncanny Valley if she's still making cat videos of herself, so...
Especially, that was weird. That was a little bit weird.
I'm sure they're smart guys, but it's like, it's probably not the right term. Maybe not.
I like how the logo is an upside down star.
Oh, yeah.
Videos are
really
over
going
Nebula,
for that
ad-free, along with content from a bunch of other awesome folks like Polyphonic, who I'm currently writing a video with where we're comparing Pink Floyd's The Wall and The Who's Tommy.
Oh, God.
What?
No.
Why do I get the feeling that sucks?
Why do I get the feeling she knows barely anything about music from the 70s?
Why do I have a feeling that she also doesn't know anything about British history?
Oh, God.
Do I get the feeling she's utterly insane?
I'm kind of glad that Hawk is not on here. He probably would have had an earful of him screaming about the history between the Shah, the British Empire.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. But this is
This
like
went surprisingly quick.
Yeah,
It goes into an hour.
classic rock. I mean, you're going from her talking about politics to a bunch of famous, well-known bands. This is a musical, I believe. Tommy.
The Wall, yeah, it is. Yes, like I think the album was made like years before the movie, but like the movie is the band heavily involved in it, especially the singer.
Yeah, if you don't know Pink Floyd, you know, you got to listen to your classic rock, man.
Yeah, progressive rock. It's at its finest.
Yeah.
So look for that in the upcoming months. And what? Nebula's partnered with Curiosity.
Okay, we're done.
Okay, yeah, we're done. Memes.
Yes, we're
My
done.
name
All
is
right, great.
Dunn. My
There
name
you
is
go.
Dunn. We're not. I'm done. It's.
Let's see what we got for memes. Hopefully nothing, because Maggie Mae Fish Day is painful. Oh, we have memes. Damn it. All right. Fan
Chibi,
arts.
bunch-
Why is fan...
bunch of chibi stuff.
Yeah, why did you put... Okay, Mateus, whatever. I'm not gonna showcase that. Here is Hawk. Oh no, Hawk is listening. A Netflix original documentary, Seaspiracy, March 24th. It appears my intelligence circuits have melted. Oh no, he is listening. What happened? I'm surprised he
He
didn't jump
probably
on.
has to spend times with the girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't jump on though. If that's the case, it makes more sense. Okay, more Hawk. A Mormon. What Hawk's girlfriend thought Mormons were.
That is a very accurate depiction. That's done right now after the stream.
Is that like a Canadian?
Maggie Mae Fish, we're gonna do some digging.
Yeah, is that like a Canadian mine worker? Like, what's going on?
I think that's supposed to be a mutant mole.
Oh,
Nah, it's a Mormon.
it's okay. Fair enough. More just Chibi Dunn. Yeah, it's not quite what I thought of it. Okay, it's fine. Born at 7. Bored at 7:01. Yeah. More Hawk. Maggie talking about Nixon politics, etc. Hawk's girlfriend. Why does Maggie match her chair? Is she autistic?
Yes. Yes, she is.
We have thought about what mental problems she has. I don't think autism covers it. I think there's.
I don't think like the spectrum of autism can cover Maggie.
Yeah, even Whisp was like, something's wrong with this girl. We're not sure what. Oh boy. All right, man. This is one of the most boring videos from.
Yeah, it kind of is.
I guess so. I didn't really have fun. We just sort of went through it really quickly. I'm sure if we had more politically guys who actually studied this stuff and like talking about politics, we'd have more to say. But she just interviewed a bunch of filmmakers and tried to tie it into Trump. And you're like, okay, 2021, Maggie.
How can I talk about Trump again?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, we have to talk about it. This video is talking about America, and it's putting us to sleep. Here's Cayman America, which I've heard is a pretty good story. Really?
I can see the story on the chest, yeah.
That is, I like the colors. Yeah, it's very bright.
It's a double take.
I've never heard of this before, but I'm assuming it's a manga. All right. More Hawk. Hawk to Maggie Fish. Look, we've all got something to bring to this discussion. The thing you should bring is silence. I have a feeling Hawk is like ready to explode. He has like almost half a page filled out with notes.
I love that Hawk has like hundreds upon hundreds of Red Dwarf memes to use.
His frustration is immense and he has no other way to express himself, so he's just making memes. Donald Trump, Maggie Mae. Yeah, it's like she can't stop talking about him. I don't get it. Since Rowling was mentioned, here we go. Pretty ironic that J.K. Rowling originally went by that name because it sounded more masculine, and she was afraid people wouldn't buy a book written by a woman, so I guess it's only okay for her, capital H-E-R, to present any way she wants. Yes, people use pen names all the time. What's wrong with that? Also,
she's basically like saying that she's making a hypocrisy trans argument. The reason why she's saying that is because J.K. Rowling said that trans women don't necessarily understand what has happened to females through history due to the fact that they used to be men and now they're just designed to present as women. Because of this, Maggie Mae Fish is saying, you're a hypocrite because you use J.K. Rowling instead of Jolene Rowling. Because, like, the world was a different time back then. It was very, very difficult for women to get published. J.K. Rowling actually, got, rejected, 6 to 8 times before creating before Harry Potter got published and became the second highest net worth author on the face of the planet.
I respect all those 6 or 9 publishers that try to gatekeep this abomination from humans, but you fought a good fight, but it was over for you.
Problem is, the only person who had, for whatever reason, J.K. Rowling her net worth is $3 billion. The next highest is Stephen King at $500 million.
Yeah.
And all he writes is garbage, so
his stuff is I said before, it's like a needle in a haystack, which is brilliance. And
pulp.
It's
pulpy.
It's hard to get through. It's so thick, and then you're like, "Oh, that's brilliant," and then you're like, "Whoa," and then it goes away, and it goes back to crap.
Yeah, we need to have children having sex. This is very important for the scene.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody likes that part in it, and if they do, put them on a watch list.
I think because he writes so much, he doesn't care. He just says whatever he wants. When he wrote that scene,
also he's on the stuff, so it's official.
It's like cocaine. It's like very, 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 very heavy cocaine use a lot of his life.
Oh, here's the second. I didn't see this reply. Also, and this is all in caps, by the way. Also, why did you make Hermione shrink her teeth, and then she's got the angry face, big tooth person? She's calling J.K. Rowling a big tooth person.
Or she is the big toothed person, like Maggie is that one? Is she trying to see herself in Hermione? What?
Because Hermione had described as buck teeth in the book, and she used magic to shrink her teeth.
That sounds perfectly magical.
That sounds like a very magical dental plan. But
yeah, I mean, if you're a wizard and you could fix the way you look to look hot, which we've seen in even the Witcher stories, so it's magic. Fine, cool, whatever. Maggie's a fan of both a writer from the Mary Sue, I know, and Sank Uger's douche nephew. Okay. Princess Weeks. Oh no, it's not. What's her name from BioWare? Streamer Maggie Mae Fish is my husband. No, Princess Weeks. Is that the same as what's her the Weeks family from BioWare? I don't remember. I know one of them banned me or blocked me, so.
Who hasn't blocked you?
I think Casey hasn't blocked me. He doesn't really give a shit. That's cool. So
Casey is like a brother to you, isn't
he? He never lets me fly his planes. Let's just say that. Oh boy. There's Hawk again. Smudcast Hawk memes. Yeah, Hawk doesn't want to be on a Maggie Mae Fish Smudcast, so he just makes memes. Even though I know he's lots to say. Anyway.
Oh boy.
And we just lost Dunn. Just didn't notice that.
Something's wrong with Discord. That's what he was.
Oh yeah.
Us.
Okay.
Yeah. Maggie came for him.
Yeah. Oh, we got one more super chat. One more donation. From the Giga Chat. Hey, thank you very much. Does Maggie realize that Ayatollah Khomeini, i.e. the man who disposed of the Shah of Iran, was also a dictator? And he was far more brutal than the Shah ever was. If you know any Iranian immigrants, chances are they're because of the Shah's regime. Yeah, this is the problem with the Middle East and the involvement of foreign countries. They think they're doing good things and better things, or this guy's less worse than the other guy. It always ends in bloodshed. And
there's no way that like the US just managed to like fuck up the entire country.
Yeah, and this is the
just
problem
by themselves
with interventionism. As I think, hopefully, the people of America are learning, if not, they've already figured it out, that they have to stop doing this. And yes, pulling out will cause problems, will cause a series of pockets of power that will be filled up very quickly and violently. But this is how we get to a more stable and sound world when they're not being overlooked by this superpower who can bomb them at a moment's notice. Like, can you imagine having your country right next to America, right next to a country that could bomb you, and they have bombed you in the past? Like,
yes.
Yeah, it's
That's my
terrifying.
life.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's not safe. It doesn't feel safe. So long as you agree with their politics, everything's great, which is terrifying. We have the same issue in Canada right now. If we disagree with our government, we could have our livelihood destroyed, which is pretty much the government version of cancel culture.
Yeah.
you have a sign we disagree with. Well, we're going to take away the sign. We're going to take away your bank account, your dog, and
your crypto.
Yeah, they've now gotten into crypto, at least Canadian crypto. So any companies that do want to do anything on the blockchain, if you're in Canada, FinTrack has to monitor that. So it's only a matter of time for the rest of the world.
Do you also like get taxed for crypto?
Tags? I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, taxes.
Taxation. Yeah.
When you make a sale and it's in the form of currency, then yes, you do get taxed on capital gains, regardless of what it is. The problem the problem with crypto, at least I don't know the tax implications, because you can only own certain foreign investments untaxed until you hit 100 grand American, and then you get taxed 30%. So I don't know if crypto accounts for foreign investment. I don't know. If it's Canadian crypto, probably not. But I don't know how that works. I'd have to talk to a tax accountant or something like that. So, but I've been very, I check my investments. I make sure I never hit that limit. And I'm just watching, like the past 2 weeks, I don't know if you've watched the stock market. The past 2 weeks have just been a rally.
It has been amazing, at least for me.
Yeah, it's been going up and up. I'm like, I can't buy. Nothing is down. So, yeah, weird stuff. But anyway, I don't want to talk about economics or the marketplaces or any more politics. That's enough. That's enough Maggie Mae for 1 day, 1 month. And
yes,
unfortunately, no one wanted to do Renegade Cut last week, so we skipped him. Had a day off, which is kind of sad.
We can do it like next April.
I don't know if you guys are up for that, because we could make a poll and you guys won't show up because you don't want to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, he's sort of losing his appeal as the one.
He does, but like we should really cover like one of those normal videos from him, like the Gandalf one, or
yes,
I don't even know.
The earlier ones where he sounds like a human being.
Because it's like a really good experience to see like him being a human.
Breathing and having emotion and talking about geeky things he likes, as opposed to Trump and a book he read about politics, talking about politics. It's just too much to take a movie and turn it into political spiel about how socialism is good or like whatever.
Yes. Oh, no. He's an anarchist. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I know. He's an anarcho-socialist or whatever the hell that means, yeah. I like my coffee hot and cold. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
It's the perfect balance.
The perfect balance of insanity. Yeah. How does this work? I don't know. It just does. Anyway, that was just over an hour and a half of us trying to go through a very boring Maggie Mae Fish video where she bashed Trump in 2021. Great stuff, Maggie. Fantastic. I'm glad.
Never late for that.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter what year it'll be. She'll just keep talking about Trump. Always. It's amazing. Just have a bingo card. Just every fifth square is Trump. Just like Trump. You get a bingo on one line every time.
I think ever since Trump appeared and did anything in the campaign, I think every single Maggie video has Trump in it. It's really difficult to name a single one of those videos that doesn't have even a small hint at the fact that the president used to be Donald Trump.
It's possible she based her own motivation on Trump and she didn't really focus that in content, but that's her underlying motivation to make videos. And it occasionally pops up here and there if it's content related. So, fun stuff. Anyway, call it a day. Enjoy your Fridays, guys. It's nice, cool weather here. Toronto. Enjoying the season as it's left. The snow has melted. Probably
it has been 20 degrees here.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Time to go out. Time to spend some money. Go to a restaurant. Go to a festival if they still have them open. And go interact with humanity. Probably people not like Maggie Mae, but normal people. Don't waste your time with people that talk about politics all day. That's not fun. That's not cool. Have a good time. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys